Hi, everybody. This is Gloria, the pink-haired investor realtor in Indianapolis, and I've got Ethan Price with me today. And today we're going to talk about the Near East neighborhood. So a lot of different things going on in this neighborhood. We're excited to just dive in and talk about the Near East side of Indianapolis. So you can see that I have my gear group map pulled up. So little plug here. If you sign our buyer's contract, you get a copy of this. This is not a static map. We're constantly looking at this and changing it and putting rents and different things in this map. So just a little plug there. If you want to work with the gear group, we'd love to send this map to you. We'll put our information at the end so you can reach a hold of us. So anyway, Near East Side. So you can see from Ethan's map that we are right in the middle of downtown. The 465 circle is all the way around on the outside on the townships. What's happening here? So sorry, let him zoom out. So there's a 465 circle. Zoom into the downtown area. We have two major highways that come into the middle of downtown. 70 comes from the west to St. Louis and goes through the just on the south side of downtown. 65 comes from Chicago area. And then you can kind of see that it cuts around. And there's a little spot here for about a mile and a half where 70 and 65 join together. We call that the North Split is kind of, the North Split is where 70 goes back out. And then at the end, so 70 goes out towards Ohio. And then at the South Split there, that's where it goes down to Kentucky, to Louisville, Kentucky. So what we're going to talk about is right on the east side of this, where these two highways join together here. So it's the area that's in purple right now. This is collectively known as the Near East Side. There are several neighborhoods in here. So where are the developments happening? The development's obviously happening downtown. There's a lot. This is only a 5 to 10 minute Uber drive to anything downtown. Any of the basketball, football, convention center, any of that kind of stuff is right there. So then right along Washington, there's a lot of development happening there. They're taking a lot of these old warehouses, turning them into luxury loft apartments and building some office buildings. So every time I go down Washington, there's construction going on for something. Obviously, the closer to the highway, the closer to downtown is where it started. And then it's going towards the east. Then up in the corner of right inside of 10th and Mass Avenue. So can you zoom in there, Ethan? Mass Avenue is Massachusetts Avenue, is kind of where all of the touristy stuff is, the bars, the restaurants, the hangout places. There's like I don't know, when my husband and I go down there for date night, basically what we do is we put reservations in at 3 or 4 restaurants, and whoever calls us first, that's where we go because all the restaurants are good down there. Right in the corner there is an area called Bottle Works. So what a developer did is he came in and he took an old Coca-Cola bottling plant and he turned it into a boutique hotel called the Bottle Works Hotel. Pretty fancy, kind of 1920s Art Deco. It's a pretty cool place to kind of walk around in there. They have a cool coffee shop that I like to go in there. Actually, there's a nail shop in there. I get my nails there done there sometimes. And then across the street from there is the bottling factory. Sorry, what's it called? It's not Bottle Works is the hotel. The garage. I'm sorry. So the garage is where they took the old garage where the 1920s trucks used to pull in with the glass Coca-Cola bottles, and they converted it into a food court. Now, this isn't like a McDonald's, Arby's, Burger King food court. This is like fancy bougie food. It's so good in there. So right in the middle of Sun King Brewery, and then they have anything you can think of, like Brazilian steak. House place is one of my favorites. There's a Honduras sandwich place. There's a sushi place. There's a barbecue place. There's boba tea. There's some ice cream. There's just tons of really good food right in the garage. And then across from there, it's all kind of like a little block here that they have a movie theater. And then they have a something called Pins, where it has like duck pin bowling, arcade games, and just kind of a hangout place as well. So all of this is a big development right at the end of Mass Avenue, where all of the bars and restaurants and hangout places are. So this is kind of the hub of where the development started. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go under 65 and 70 on 10th Street, right on the corner there. And that's where the development started. So what happened is it started in the first neighborhood there is Cottage Grove. Just south of there is Holy Cross. And it's literally over, I've been doing this for 9 years, and over those last 9 years, it's gradually moved street by street to the east is where the development is. Anything that's in this purple area, all the way over to rural, up to Brookside Park, and then down to Washington. All of this is a safe area. If you find any properties in here, they're going to be good for you. There's a lot of young professionals in this area because, again, it's so close to downtown, and it really has a lot of these 1920s and 30s houses that have been not only renovated, but actually restored and look pretty cool. So after Cottage Grove and Holy Cross, the next neighborhood to the north of 10th Street is Windsor Park. And then in between 10th and New Yorkish, I don't know exactly where the line is Woodruff Place. Woodruff Place is really cool. It has a couple of the streets actually have a divided street, and they have fountains and trees down the middle of it. And it is just awesome in the summer. So the Woodruff Place is really cool. And then south of there is Arsenal Heights. So Arsenal Heights is where a lot of my investors are finding developments right now. So you can actually do a lot of strategies in here. So it's good for long-term rentals, for BRRRRs, for flips, for multifamilies. So I'm going to let Ethan talk a little bit about some different strategies that we could use here in this Near East area.
So these specific neighborhoods, like she said, they're been gentrified, been being developed. I would, like, if I was to put a percentage on it, I would say upwards, some of these streets, 90%. So really, I put a range of 80 to 90%. Usually the farther east or west you are, the better the streets are. As you get closer to rural, some of these streets might be 70%. With that being the case, a lot of these ARVs are higher. So if you can find that one property on the 80%, 90% streets, there's a high chance that that's going to be a good investment property for a BRRRR or a flip. On that note too, like we're saying, these are nice areas with working professionals or in the location. I mean, you could, if you wanted to, you could walk to this location over here, the Bottle Works, like we were talking about. It's not that far. So it works well for short-term rentals. As a strategy, you can find long-term rentals. I just think the entry point, especially if you're looking for a turnkey, is going to be your cash flow might be negative or break even your first year or two as you're waiting for the appreciation and rents to go up. So that long-term rental, unless you find the right price, probably is my preferred strategy over here. Definitely would be midterm or short term, or if you can find a BRRRR or flip over here is what I would suggest in these near east side neighborhoods. As we continue east, like Gloria said, a lot of the
Hold on
development.
just a second before you go on. I have a couple examples of that before we go
Yeah,
on.
go ahead.
So first of all, flip example. So I have a guy now, this was 5 years ago. This was 2020 in the middle of COVID. Yes, that was a fun renovation to go through in the middle of COVID. But he bought a property on Hamilton Avenue, and he bought it for about $100,000. I was trying to remember exactly. I think it might have been 106. He put about $35,000 into it. It was a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath that he converted it to a 3-2. And we sold it for $215,000. Now, again, this was 2020, numbers 5 years ago. Those numbers aren't going to quite work today. But he was the second property on that street that had been renovated. So the house across the street had sold for $240 a couple months before. Since then, if you go down that street today, and you can actually go to Google Street View, go down Hamilton Avenue, there are more than 20 properties that have been either they renovated the house or they tore the house down and built a brand new one. And they've sold for over $400,000. So that's kind of the example of that flip area. There's also a lot of multifamilies in this area. So one example, so he talked about you might not be positive cash flow to begin with. I had a guy right on the Arsenal Heights Cottage Grove area that bought, I don't even remember when this was. This might have been 2017, 18. He bought a duplex that was gorgeous. He bought it for $400,000, and it was only renting for $1,600 per side. So that's $3,200 a month. but he knew that the prices were going to increase. So he's getting well over $2,000 a month per site on that $400,000 property now. Another example of a flip and a multifamily, I had a guy buy a property on Jefferson Avenue, right at Jefferson and 10th. He bought the property for $175,000. Now he put a lot of money into it. I don't know the exact numbers at the end, but we were between 120 and 150 on construction. He decided he didn't want to keep it, so he sold it for $400,000. It ended up being a 1.5, and the guy that bought it was renting it out for $1,700 to $1,800 per side at the time, and that would have been 2 or 3 years ago. A year and a half ago, I also had one of my investors that was wanting to sell his property, and he ended up selling it to his tenants for $375,000. They were only paying $1,400 at the time, but he was just kind of being gracious to them and keeping their rents low, and they ended up buying the property, and it was a win-win for everybody. One more story I wanted to tell, that you talked about being able to walk down to Mass Avenue. The guys that lived in this duplex only had bikes. They didn't even have cars. They biked everywhere they went. They were actually professional bikers that went on bike tours actually in Europe and Egypt and South America. So they biked everywhere they wanted, and they were right here in this neighborhood. So it is a very walkable, bikeable area as well. So yes, so you were going to go ahead, Ethan, and talk a little bit more about the areas around there as well.
Yep. So, okay, pause. Rural Street right here is really kind of our dividing line of what's been really developed and what is transitioning over here this way. So we got these transitioning neighborhoods that I think my preferred strategy is long-term rental or like delayed BRRRR. You can BRRRR and your numbers are there, but I suggest holding on because the development's coming out this way, and you're going to see. I really think you're going to regret if you sell it, is what I'm basically saying in these neighborhoods. These neighborhoods are Brookside Park, Tuxedo Park, Grace Tuxedo, Little Flower. Little Flower is a nice one in this area. A lot of investors that are here have heard about Little Flower and want to invest in there. It's got this cute little like quaint, close-knit community feel.
Little Flower, here, let's back up just a little bit. So Brookside has 2 really good elementary schools in there. So I feel like it actually attracts families. There are also a lot of duplexes in there. So if you've got somebody that's got the multifamily strategy, I think you are still able to pick up duplexes in there for around $150,000, and your ARV is around $300,000. This is February of 2026. I actually have a duplex right on Brookside Park that is for sale for $285,000 right now. And he is getting $1,300 per side on that. He does have Section 8, but they're really good tenants. Brookside Park also has some fun things going on. They did a big development a few years ago. It has disc golf in there. So every time I'm in this area, I see guys down there playing disc golf. And then it has like just a nice little park feel. I haven't been there since then, that one of their pathways, they're doing like glow in the dark path or something like that. So that'll be fun. But yeah, Brookside is definitely developing. Then Little Flower that Ethan was starting to talk about, it is very quaint. You're going to find like 1950s and 60s kind of bungalows. Some of them are like brick, so they're nice, solid structures. I again would want to be in that 100 to 150 range if you're going to pick up a house that you're going to flip or BRRRR. And then your ARV is going to be around the 200 to 250 range. These houses are a little bit smaller than what you're seeing on the Near East Side and Brookside. I also like to call this my little old lady neighborhood, because if you think about these old 1950s brick houses that this little old lady has lived in forever, you might find the bubblegum pink tile in the bathroom. You might find wallpaper on the walls or shag carpet. But they're good, solid structures that a lot of times have had the maintenance done on their HVAC and have had roofs replaced and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I like about the Little Flower neighborhood. So go ahead, go on to your next.
Yep.
And then that you missed one neighborhood, Englewood. Oops, we zoomed out. Englewood is just south of Brookside. I feel like it's starting. And if you wanted to find a house in there, I would say maybe, but let us drive those streets and look at it for you. Then Grace Tuxedo and Tuxedo Park, you can kind of see I don't have them highlighted because they're not one of my preferred neighborhoods right now. But I feel like the development there is about 2 to 5 years out. So if you're an investor that's a little bit riskier and willing to take the risk, it could really pay off in these neighborhoods. Again, I would say let us drive it because it's very, very street by street in this area. Would you agree, Ethan?
Yeah, I definitely. So along this Sherman Drive right here, was pretty good. Actually, I had an investor invest in a multifamily here, and I like Sherman Drive, but some of these smaller streets, it is street by street, and so just depending on your strategy and your risk level and your goals and your wants. Like Gladstone's a good street. I like
Yep.
Gladstone, but
And I was going to say closer up to 10th Street is not bad either, like around that Kroger that's right there.
yep.
That
Well,
area
as you
right
get
there is actually pretty good.
closer to Washington, just that's why you have us, where your boots on the ground, your eyes, making sure it's a good area for you to be in. Um, so yeah, but a lot of these, I put Little Flower a little nicer, but I classify these mostly as C and good long-term rental areas and appreciating over a long time, and with good hopes of gentrification coming this way, as we are seeing it happen, like Gloria said, with some of the businesses that are coming in, the street development, the Brookside development, and then just other conversations we're having with investors that are investing in these neighborhoods and they're seeing what they're liking too. So
So
here is more long-term or delayed burr, and then over here is your flips, burrs, and midterm rental, short-term rental due to the nicer area.
And then two more neighborhoods that we wanted to touch on real quick before we left. Christian Park. Christian Park also is another kind of long-term, smaller houses, a lot of 2 1s, 3 1s, 700 to 1,000 square feet, like smaller houses, but good rental areas. The development over there is the jail, which I know that's weird, but they built a brand new $30 million criminal justice center, which you
Yeah.
would think would be a deterrent for the neighborhood. But actually, what's happening is there's restaurants going in around there and office buildings, and the police and the attorneys are back and forth all the time. So Christian Park, I wouldn't count it out as a decent little rental neighborhood that could be long term. And then one more neighborhood is Irvington. Irvington is very bougie. I don't know how else to say it.
I like
So they
Irvington.
kind of have like a
I
little
would live in
down.
Irvington.
It's so cute there. So think of like Victorian mansions, and then you got these soccer moms like driving their Cadillac Escalades. That's the type of things that are in Irvington. So they have a cute little downtown
Oh,
area with like little shops and restaurants. Lincoln Pancake House. There's a Starbucks there. Right behind there is where you can kind of see that little circle there. There's this awesome old historic church there that has a lot of community events in that area. So Irvington, if you can find something, awesome. It's the price points just have been too high for several years now. But what we see finding happening is kind of you go around the outskirts of that, like Bozart Brown or the edges of Irvington. There's some good houses there that you can pick up for different types of strategies.
mhm.
So that's our near east side. Ethan, do you have anything else to add?
Um, oh, do what you Gloria mentioned on this. So we've really kind of just been talking overall as a whole and not really splitting it between single family and multifamily. Looking at Indianapolis, this is actually the area with the most supply of multifamily on the market.
Yeah.
Um, so that's just your keynote. So if you're wanting multifamily, this is between here and the north side. But I like this is again where the supply is. And so if you're really wanting multifamily here in Indianapolis, I'm heavily suggesting studying these areas, knowing these areas and where you want to be and your strategies. So you can again, like Gloria mentioned, even a Little Flower. Little Flower's got the classic 1 per side, 1,000 square foot, and you can find those. Well, in Little Flower, they're going to be probably around 175, but in this east side, you can find them turnkey around 150, up towards turnkey 350. That cash flows, and that's a 3.2, 1,200 square foot aside or 1,500 square foot aside. So that I just wanted to hit on multifamily before we got off.
Okay. So again, we'd be happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you
Mhm.
and talk through your strategy, see what would work for your strategy in these areas. So anytime, give us a call. Ethan, can you go ahead and give us your contact information?
Yes, my email is Ethan Price sounds like it's spelled, at kw.com, and then 317-937-0714. That's my personal phone number, so feel free to text me and call me. And I would love to connect with you guys anytime. I love talking shop or figuring out how we can help.
And my contact information is Gloria at Gear, Gearre, group.com. My phone number is 317-750-4998. That is also my personal cell. Texting is best for that. And then I also, both of us have a Calendly. My Calendly handle is calendly.com/gear group. And what's yours, Ethan?
Mine / Ethan Price -KW. So we'll
Yeah.
put a link in the,
Yeah.
you guys can just
in the
see all
notes
the
here. So yeah, we'll work on that for you. But yes, definitely give us a call. We love talking about Indianapolis and the development and what's going. And basically what you're getting is we're driving these neighborhoods. So these lines might change again. But this is our opinion and just what we're happen to see at this time. And as we see more development, we'll definitely pass that along. Definitely reach out. Have a great day.
you guys.